I had mine right there.
I'm just gonna fall. Okay. Thanks. Okay, so we're gonna start, before we get into the PowerPoint, we're gonna start with the timeline I gave you on the other side. Yeah. Okay, so I want you to think about everything you know about voting rights. Specifically, we can think about women's voting rights.
Keep talking.
Okay, so does it work?
It will.
Put it horizontal maybe, and then it don't matter where
She's good.
Okay, you're gonna think about everything you know about women's voting rights, specifically for the groups that are on the back of the piece of paper. You can look off of his for it. And you're gonna put them on a timeline. You're gonna think of specifically for some of them, they didn't even have citizenship, so they couldn't vote, and then some of them just were super disenfranchised. So think about when either they got citizenship or they had the least restricted voting rights. So we're gonna take like a minute and a half to do this.
So you just want us to put us in our best guess?
Yeah, your best guess.
Okay.
From anything you know about. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any thoughts so far?
No.
Just make a guess.
Probably
I was gonna
women
say,
first.
I'm going to write down this right here as a timeline. Because that's my trip over spring.
Are we talking federally? In America?
Yes.
Okay.
So the least restricted rights of those groups of women.
Federally restricted?
Mm. You got about 45 seconds.
What do you think?
I don't, as far as I know, it's just women.
I didn't know women in general. I put it first because I was like,
That makes sense. And then just list minority groups after.
yeah.
Probably Asian next. For like California.
Yeah. I was gonna go black first.
Do it.
Yeah.
It got more attention, that's for sure. Does 3/4 count, or 3/5 count as voting rights?
You're talking about like in slavery?
Yeah.
No.
That will be answered later.
Okay, are we good? Okay, so we're gonna put those, we can put those away for a minute. We're gonna come back to them at the end. So, as I heard Tobias say, I just thought it was all women. We really have this problem of thinking about women's suffrage as, oh, when the 19th Amendment was passed in 1920, all women got the right to vote, but we forget about disenfranchisement of a lot of female groups. So we're gonna talk about the 15th, the 19th, and the 24th Amendment, and then we're gonna talk about some disenfranchisement tactics, and then we're gonna focus in on Native American, Asian, Black, and Spanish-speaking women. So the first two of the constitutional amendments, the 15th Amendment in 1870 makes it so that the right of citizens of the United States to vote can't be denied or abridged based on race. It says race, color, or previous condition of servitude. So this comes right after the Civil War, helping Black people gain the right to vote. And then the 19th Amendment was ratified in 1920, and this gives women the right to vote, but again, disenfranchisement really hurts both minority groups and women. So disenfranchisement affects everybody really, except for white men. But some of the tactics are literacy tests, which test the ability of a voter to read and write. This really hurts former slaves who were not allowed to learn to read and write, so they're illiterate. They can't teach their children how to read or write, and also the education system at this time in the early 1900s and even the late 1800s is really bad. And so people who don't have the money to be educated really struggle passing these literacy tests, and they're also entirely subjective. So the people who are giving out these literacy tests are most of the time, a majority of the time, white judges who can say, oh, just because you're black, just because you're a woman, you cannot vote. You're not good enough at speaking English, you're not good at writing English, so you can't vote. And then poll taxes says that citizens can be forced to pay a fee in order to vote. And again, we go back to historically, minority groups are historically in poverty, struggling to pay any kind of things, struggling to afford food. And so you're gonna choose buying food over paying a fee to vote. And then lastly, voter intimidation. It was legal to just threaten people as they were going to vote. And if you're being threatened as you go to vote, you're gonna choose your life over the right to vote, over the ability to go place a ballot. So, what's a right that citizens have that non-citizens don't?
Vote.
Vote, that's right. So, Native American women aren't even considered citizens of the United States yet. So, with the Snyder Act in 1924, that makes Native Americans citizens of the United States. So, and it's because it's after 1920, Native American women can technically vote. But as we go back to disenfranchisement, some states are claiming that residence on a reservation isn't even state citizenship. So they can't vote in their state elections, they can't vote in federal elections. And some states are just outright banning Native Americans from voting. This is like in New Mexico and Arizona, these states just straight up ban Native Americans from voting. So Native American women cannot vote in many states in America. But they are citizens now. First, oh my gosh. There's gonna be pictures of women. These are all suffragettes who either helped in the original suffragette movement or in fighting for their own group, their minority group's right to vote. We're gonna do a little project at the end that you guys can learn more about them if you would like to. So as we go into another group who didn't even have citizenship, Asian women were affected by immigration quotas, like the Chinese Exclusion Act and the Immigration Act of 1924, which limits immigration so that almost all Asian immigrants were banned from entering the states, so meaning that they can't even gain citizenship to be able to vote. Then in 1943, 20 years after that act and 40 years after the Chinese Exclusion Act, Chinese immigrants are finally allowed to become citizens with the Magnuson Act. So that takes away this Chinese Exclusion Act, and Chinese immigrants can now vote. But again, disenfranchisement is hurting them in literacy tests, in poll taxes, because they're coming over with nothing. Literacy tests, a lot of them don't speak English, so they can't pass literacy tests. So then about 10 years after Chinese immigrants can become citizens, the US passes the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1952, which ends those anti-Asian exclusion laws. So immigrants from Asia who come over are now allowed to vote. So then we have immigrant Asian women who can vote. This was especially affecting first generation immigrants, because second gens, people who were born in the States because of the 14th Amendment, which is the, oh gosh, I'm blanking. People, if you're born in the States, you become a citizen immediately. So, yeah, naturalization. Second generation Asians could become citizens and vote, but now first generation immigrants can apply for citizenship and vote. So Asian women now have the ability to vote. Many Asian women did not, but they do now. So then we go from 1952 to 1964 with the passage of the 24th Amendment, and it bans poll taxes. So now you can't be forced to pay a fee in order to vote, which then helps people who have lower incomes who don't have that disposable income to just pay an outrageous fee to go vote. So our next group of women are women who already have citizenship because of the 14th Amendment. So Black women are mostly just affected by disenfranchisement. But with the Voting Rights Act of 1965, it enforces those statutes that were written in the 15th Amendment, saying that federal examiners can come in to oversee elections in places that have a history of discriminating against voters. So in places like Georgia and Florida and Alabama, where voters are constantly discriminated against, where literacy tests are always proctored, that's not the word. The Voting Rights Act really helps in those places. It also bans literacy tests, so those who have lower educations can really be able to still influence elections. And then on our last one, we have Spanish-speaking women. Specifically, we have Latin American, Mexican, and Hispanic women who were excluded from voting through literacy tests, which were banned in 1965. But even after the tests were banned, women whose primary language was Spanish were still disenfranchised because governments were not required to provide voting materials in any other language than English. So they were still, it was still impossible for them to be able to vote by themselves. They had to bring someone with them who could speak English, but you also can't have someone with you when you vote. So being able to go vote was almost impossible for anybody who spoke different languages. But we have such a huge population of Spanish speakers in the country that it's extremely affecting these groups of women. In like New Mexico, Arizona, Texas, anywhere that we gained from the Mexican-American War, in California, where a huge population is Spanish-speaking. So then in 1975, the extension to the Voting Rights Act says that certain voting jurisdictions have to provide materials in the language of the minority group. And those certain voting jurisdictions just have to have over 5% of the population of that area be of the language of the minority group. So only over 5% of an area has to be Spanish speaking for them to have to require that they provide materials in a different language. It also prohibits state and local governments from enacting laws that are designed to abridge the rights of citizens who are part of a language minority. So they can't pass laws that are saying, oh, actually, we're only going to provide it in English. They can't pass laws that say, oh, you have to learn English before you can come vote. And this is extremely helpful for anybody of a language minority, but especially Spanish speakers. So here's a graph of presidential election voting. Purple is women and the gray is men from 1964 to 2020. And as we think back to all of the years that we've thought about of the extension to the Voting Rights Act in 1975, the Voting Rights Act in 1965, and the 24th Amendment in 64, why do we think we see any of these trends? Which kind of trends are we seeing?
Upward growth.
Yeah.
Women always vote more than men.
Mm-hmm. Why do we think we see some growth?
We let more people vote.
Yeah, it's true.
Voting's become more accessible with technology.
Mm-hmm, it has. That's right. Good. So we see the expansion of voting rights for a lot of people really just helps grow how many people are voting. We go to 2020 where 80% of the eligible adult population, so over 18, report voting. And, well, over 80% of women and just over 70% of men. But still, that's huge numbers that come almost doubling from the 1964 numbers right before the Voting Rights Act. So the expansion of voting rights is super important for how everybody can impact government. Okay, so now on to our activity. Can we all get out our laptops or a device where you can look things up?
This is so exciting.
Okay, so there's not a link because I didn't give you access to this presentation, but if you look up this quote, "Women of Color and the Fight for Women's Suffrage," the first link should be from the Commission of the Status of Women and Girls, and you're gonna go on there. Tell me when you get there.
Commission of Women.
Did you look up this part first?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
This one?
It should be purple. You there? Okay.
Not yet.
Oh.
Oh, but you can still continue for time's
Oh,
sake.
wait. Okay, is your laptop?
It's
Okay.
turning on, yeah.
Okay.
It was completely powered off.
Okay.
Sorry.
Do you want to do it on your phone?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. So you're gonna pick, if you scroll down a little bit, there's a bunch of women on there who are all suffragettes from any of these categories. And I want you to just do some research. You can write down some stuff. We're gonna tell like 1 or 2 facts when when everybody feels good. So some questions that you can look up. Just how did she contribute to the original suffrage movement? So the early 1900s, before the 19th Amendment was passed. And also, you can also just look up how she contributed to her own minority group's struggle for suffrage. Yeah, so we're gonna go for about 5 minutes, and then we'll share. If you feel like you're done before the 5 minutes, you can just put your pencil or whatever down.
Mine's a UNL grad.
Really? That's a good fact to share.
Oh boy. Oh, never mind. Her last semester is back in Hawaii.
You getting there?
I am confused where to look.
Okay.
Sorry.
Are you on the okay, so search up this title first. This Women of
Okay.
Color in the Fight for Women's
In
Suffrage.
the search bar?
Yep.
Okay.
You get them?
Yeah, thank you.
This will be the 2 minutes of video I highlight.
Yeah. Her posture was great as she stood there, doing nothing.
That's good.
Gotta work on it. Gotta work on the stand there and be silent.
The teacher guild. I'll wait.
Never in my 15 years.
I'm gonna have to mute this part. That's fine. I don't know how to do that actually.
Does it take off? I mean,
No.
if there's nothing in it because it's just getting this anyway.
Yeah, there's just fast food.
many of these are there? 30 students in the class. 15 minutes each.
20 minutes.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about it.
Okay, we'll go about 45 more seconds if that's good for you, Jacob.
Are you on Wikipedia?
We can look up. We can
Got
look
the
up
name-
anywhere.
I just got the name of the person and then I.
Yeah.
I also looked on your screen first and saw that you were on Wikipedia
Yeah.
and I was like, okay, I can get away.
I mean, it's
That-
good
that was
research.
my joke.
Wikipedia is a good resource as long as you don't cite Wikipedia.
It might be the best.
Now that you should mute on there.
Well,
Except for, like,
there's
current
resources on the
people.
bottom. You just look up the resource.
Yeah, that's
from
true.
the item. Okay, how you
Another
doing?
Wikipedia.
Yeah, I can be done.
You good? Okay. Pause this. Because it has like a car horn sound and I don't want that to go off. Oh wait, okay. Hold on. Never mind. Okay, so I want y'all to share who your person was. You're gonna teach each other who your person was and whatever your fun fact or fact was. You can go.
My lady was Patsy Mink. She was born in Hawaii. She's a third generation American from Japan. She was the first woman of color to be elected a member of the House of Representatives. She went to UNL for a brief moment for 2 years of her undergrad. When she went back to Hawaii, she married a Japanese citizen, and so the way the Japanese law was is that makes her not a Hawaiian citizen now, and so she had to do a whole bunch of legislation, like had to change the legislation to let her take the bar exam, if that makes sense. So even before she's taken the bar exam, she's already having to like reconstruct the Japanese or the Hawaiian like laws, and then she went on to be elected to a member of Congress where she did a whole bunch of women's stuff over and over and over and over and over again.
Nice. Let's go next.
You had more than me. I had Nanny Helen Burroughs, who was born in 1879, died in 1961, and she founded the National Training School for Women and Girls.
Nice. And girls.
And girls.
So I researched Ida B. Wells,
Mm-hmm.
who, and the reason that she stuck out to me was because she lived in Chicago for a little bit. And so pretty much she was really into not just getting black women to vote and getting their right to vote, but just enfranchisement, right?
Disenfranchisement, yes.
Or enfranchisement.
Oh, okay.
For not just blacks as a whole, but more specifically getting black women in politics
Mm-hmm.
and pushing them to be more involved with local leadership and above.
Mhm.
So
Nice. Okay. So that was really good. I loved all of the facts that you guys gave. Okay, pull back out your timelines that you made. And to finish it out, we're gonna look at our timelines and you're gonna tell me how you think you did. We have we'll go back. So Native American women got citizenship, so the right to vote in 1924. Asian women, Chinese immigrants got the right to vote in 43, and all Asians got the right to vote in 52, sort of. Could become citizens at that point. And then black women were the least disenfranchised in 65, and Spanish-speaking women were the least disenfranchised in 75. So how do you think you did?
I did it completely backwards. I flipped it.
Okay.
I was to say, I think we did we get any right?
I wasn't paying any attention, and there's Can you draw a timeline on this
Yeah,
wall?
do you mind, just so we can.
Oh,
Miss
actually-
Maddie?
Here, I have one. Okay, so, this is a really bad timing. So we have 1920 is the 19th Amendment, 1924 is Native Americans,
Okay.
43 is Chinese immigrants, 52 is Asian immigrants, 65 is black women, and 75 is Hispanic women.
We're a little
Yeah,
mixed
yeah,
up.
we're all over the place.
Okay, well, do you guys think that you learned anything today then?
Yes, I did.
Do you feel more informed about women's rights? About women's voting rights? Yeah?
I thought
Okay.
for sure Native American women would be last.
Yeah, me too.
That was-
Okay.
I was
Actually,
confident now.
yeah.
That is all I have. So if I can figure out how to get my cursor back.
We're at 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah.